Hey everyone, welcome to my new video. I've decided to do another quick tip for you, and this time I want to talk about smoke simulation, how you can use it to enhance your design very quickly. A lot of you were asking for this every time I used smoke simulation in my designs. So this time I want to show you how it can be done. I'm no expert on Mantaflow simulation, but I have my ways how to create these quick smoke effects, and I will just show you what I use, what works for me. And if you're new to the channel and you like to see quick tips like this in the future, please hit that subscribe button and the bell button so you get notified when I release something new. The Halloween season is still here, so why not to continue? And I will create kind of a smoking cauldron or something like that. So first of all, I will press Shift A and add a circle, and I will modify the number of vertices to something smaller, like I don't know, 24. And now we can make this a little bit larger, so press S and scale this up like this. Now we'll press F to fill this up and extrude out, so press E and extrude. Now I want to do a cauldron shape here, so let's do some loop cuts. Ctrl R, create a loop cut here, move it down, and let's scale this up, so S and Shift Z to scale this on the X and Y plane and do something like this. Now we can remove the top plane, so select this and press X and delete faces. And I will do one more cut here, so Ctrl R and do a loop cut. Now select this top loop, so alt click here and press S to scale up and move it up a little bit maybe. Okay, so this will be our basic shape for the cauldron. And we can modify this a little bit. So first of all, I will press O to enable proportional editing, go to the vertex select by pressing 1, and let's drag some of these vertices up and down. So this is kind of a little bit distorted, so it's not so uniform. Okay, something like this. And now I want to do some dents here, so I will select one of these vertices and press V to rip the region and move this around a little bit more, and let's make this fall off smaller with the mouse wheel. And now I will disable proportional editing and just move some of these vertices like this. Okay, and maybe here in the front. Okay, and now let's add solidify modifier and let's give it some more of the thickness. And then I will add the bevel modifier for those better refined edges. Add one more segment so we have nice supporting loops there, and switch the limit method to angle. And now let's shade this smooth, and I will add one level of subdivision here, so press Ctrl 1 to add one level of subdivision, and I will reduce this for render as well. And here we hit that angle, so we can try to make this a little bit larger. So 35 degrees, and we can scale this a little bit down like that. Okay, I think this will work for some kind of cauldron. Now let's press Shift A and add a circle. Let's bring it up, so press G then Z and move this up. Tab in, press F to fill and scale this up, so we are creating water level there, and maybe we can push this down a little bit. So I will tab out, press G then Z and move this down. And let's look from the front, enable wireframe so we can see how thick this is, and we can go all the way here. Okay, and now we can add some bubbles there, so shift right click here to move the cursor there, press Shift A and add UV sphere, and I will just shade this smooth, make this smaller and leave it like that. Maybe later I will do something about this, and press Alt D, Shift Z and just create some more of these. Okay, so this will be our base object, and this is just to see the scene that we are creating here. And now we can proceed and add that smoke simulation. First of all, to create smoke you need some object to emit that smoke, so shift right click here and we will add another UV sphere here, and we can make this a little bit larger maybe and move this down. So this will be our smoke emitter. And now to be able to use this as a smoke emitter, first of all, I will need to go to the object settings, and in the viewport display, I want to display this as a wire. And then in the visibility, we don't want to show this in renders. And now let's reset the cursor. So Shift S and cursor to world origin. And now I will add the cube, and let's tab in, make this quite larger and move this up. And this will be our domain for the smoke. So yeah, something like this. And now we can go to the physics tab, click fluid and add the domain. So this will switch the type of the object to the volume domain. We can maybe make it a little bit smaller. So S and Shift Z to scale this on X and Y plane. Maybe push this down a little bit. So we have our smoke domain and we have our smoke object. Now add fluid simulation to this object as well, and we will switch this type to flow. And we'll leave the flow type to smoke, but don't forget to switch the behavior to inflow so it's continuous. And now I want this smoke to go really high, but I don't want to bake a lot of frames. I don't want this to take so long. I want the smoke to rise as fast as possible. So first of all, I will rise the initial temperature of the smoke to 5. And then we can select the smoke domain object and do some settings here. First of all, I will change the animation frames to 100. And here where the cache is for the domain object, I want to reduce this to 100 as well, so we are not baking so many frames. And that's for the cache. This is really important. There are a few types how you can cache your simulation, and the default is replay. That means basically that the simulation will happen. If you now play, you will see this working, so the smoke is rising there actually. But sometimes this behaved in a little bit of weird way. If I added some force field and stuff like that, it wouldn't like re-evaluate the cache. So I will just switch this to all, so we are baking all the time, and you can click bake all. You will see baking happening here and on the timeline. And now if you just scrub through the timeline, you can see your simulation. So this is a little bit large. I think we have that smoke object a little bit too large, so we can select this, maybe move it up a little bit and make it smaller like this, and apply the scale. So Control A, apply the scale, and now just select the domain object, free all, and bake again. So every time you do some change, you will need to bake this. And now we have some initial smoke effect here. The other thing, performance wise, there is an adaptive domain here. And this is supposed to work in a way that it helps you to make these bakes quicker, but for some reason, if I enable adaptive domain and add some cell resolution, it bakes slower than if I leave it like this. Maybe it's a multi-core thing on a Ryzen CPU or something. I didn't research into this, so if you maybe have some tip why adaptive domain takes longer to bake for me, just let me know in the comments. So I will leave this unchecked. I don't need adaptive domain right now, so only thing left is to set up some settings for the smoke, and let's free the bake. And first of all, I want to set heat and buoyancy density. Buoyancy is basically a physical phenomenon of the liquids, of that inner pressure that, for example, allows the boats to flow on the water. So you can just make this pressure higher, and I will make the heat higher as well. As you know, the warmer the steam or the smoke is, the faster it rises up. And I want to enable dissolve. That's the setting that will enable the smoke to disappear over time. And I want to raise the time for dissolve to 50. And now there's this option for noise that will add some detail, that will basically upscale your smoke resolution. But first of all, let's see what we have here. So I will bake all without the noise. Now if we play through this, you will see the smoke is rising. So now we just need to add some interest to that. First of all, to better see the smoke, I will press Shift A and add an area light here. I will bring it up, make this larger, and set the power to something like 2000. And we can set this to 3D cursor, rotate a little bit, and let's enable the EV preview. scene light, scene world, but we don't have any smoke here because we need to set some material for the domain object. So select the domain object, go to the material tab, create a new material. Let's call this smoke. And I will remove the principled shader from the surface and expand the volume and add the volume shader. So principled volume right here. And now you can see there's some smoke actually in the scene, and the scene is a little bit too large here. So I will bring this up to 5000. I will probably modify this later and maybe bring this up like that, and from the side. So now we have a visible smoke material, and we can make this a little bit brighter. So set the color of the smoke to white. And now if we go back to the physics settings on the domain object, we can make some changes here. First of all, let's free the cache, and I will enable noise here. That might take a little bit while I was in the material preview, so please bear with me while this enables. And I will leave the upres factor to 2, and now I will just bake. You can see this takes just a tiny bit longer than before, but it's not too bad. And now you can see you have a nice detailed smoke here. Of course, the basic resolution, and this is probably the most important resolution number here, but at the same time, that's the number that will make your PC cry if you go higher. So reserve this only for the final render. If you're satisfied with your smoke and how it behaves, you can then go for 64 or something even higher, you know, basically how detailed you want the smoke to be. And now this looks all nice, but I think it looks a little bit dull. There's no movement there. So first of all, it's still too large in my opinion. So I will select this inflow object and make this smaller. Let me switch to the medium point, press S and make this even smaller. And I will apply the scale, and now we can add some force field that will make this go around a little bit. So I will press Shift A and add a wind. So go to the force field and add a wind. Now let's bring this up. So press G then Z, bring it up. And I want to rotate this on the Y axis. So R, Y, 90 degrees minus. So it points this way. And first of all, let's set strength to something like 5. So it's a little bit of a stronger wind. And let's move this to the side here. It doesn't really matter right now, but now I want to show you what the wind does. So let's free and bake the cache. Okay, so immediately you can see the smoke would be blown away like that. And that's not what I want here. I want the smoke to go up and then change the direction. So we'll need to do some setup over here. And after setting the strength, we can go here and enable some fall off. So I'm good with the sphere fall off, but I want to set the max distance to something. And if you start bringing this up, you will see that ring going around your wind object. So this is basically a fall off for the wind, but you need to set some power too. So I will set this to 1. That basically determines how quickly you want this wind to fall off. So if you would set this too high, basically it wouldn't influence much. If you set it too low, then it behaves in this way. So you need to find some kind of a sweet spot. And now I will free this and bake again. Okay, and this looks much better right away. So now we have some nice smoke that goes to the side a little bit. And we can maybe bring this a little bit higher up. I don't like how it goes around the cauldron there. So something like this. And free and bake. Okay, this is much better. I really love how this curls here around that wind object. So that's all fine by me. So I will now go ahead and free this again and set the abrest factor to 3 and go for the 64 resolution. And now I will do kind of a final bake for the smoke, and that'll take quite longer. Okay, the bake is finished, and now we can explore the timeline a little bit. You can see this is much more refined smoke. It looks really nice, but at the same time on the timeline it's really slow, so really reserve this just for the final render. Okay, and now with the smoke ready, and maybe this is too high up now, but don't worry about that. I will just select these cauldron objects, parent them, and now select the cauldron and move it up, so I don't have to move the domain object. So this will work nicely. And there's one little trick you can use since Blender 2.9. If you go to the OpenVDB site or any other site basically that offers to download simulations in the VDB format, Blender now supports this. And since 2.9 there's a volume object here, so we can press Shift A and add the volume object. You can see it right here, and it says import OpenVDB. And I've downloaded one from the OpenVDB site. You can find the link in the description, and you can just import the smoke object, and it's a little bit too large, so I will scale this down and move on the X. And this is not animated, so it's just basically a static volumetric object, but it's really quick way how you can just place it somewhere in your scene and you have a quick smoke on. So yeah, you can do that too if you maybe have a slower computer, or for some kind of reason these simulations don't work for you. Just go ahead, download the VDB, and you can import it like this. You can import clouds this way, whatever you want. So that's just a little trick that you can use from now on. And now I will delete this and proceed and use this to create some kind of a little scene. I will add some more objects, probably materials, lighting and all that stuff, so we have some nice illustration in the end. And of course I will probably speed up that process so the video doesn't take too long. So this was the smoke simulation for you, and let's now finish up the scene. So this is the final setup I end up with, and now we can have a look how the final render looks like. I might play around with this a little bit to give it some finishing touches, but you get the picture. This can be used as an illustration for some kind of hero image on the website or as an icon in the game or something like that. So I hope you like this one. Thank you for watching. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and the bell button so you get notified when I release something new. And thank you again all for watching. Have a wonderful day.